I bought a van. This is a medium wheelbase, high top, 2012 VW Crafter, and I'm going to be spending the next several months converting this into a log cabin style camper van. I'm quickly going to give you all a short rundown of my design ideas for the van before we continue. As I've said, I really would like it to be essentially a log cabin on wheels. Like, I'm going to use a lot of reclaimed wood, pallet wood, whatever I can get, sand it, stain it, use it as these rows along the walls, you know what I'm saying, so it looks like a log cabin on the inside. Most important thing though is a wood burning stove, which I'm probably going to put in between this wheel arch and the step by the sliding door. Main reason for that is because of my next idea, which is what has gotten the most laughs because it does sound ridiculous. I would really like a Chesterfield armchair. Yes, I mean those leather armchairs with the big buttons in that you find in like a cigar lounge. But how amazing will it be to have that sat there by that sliding door, looking out at some amazing view. I've got the wood burning stove going, I've got a beer in my hand, maybe some really good music playing, and I just think that would be a really cool vibe. And I understand that they take up a lot of room, but there are different designs. I don't have to get the big puffy one which is part of the sofa set. You've got like the wing back one, you've even got one called a slipper chair, which is more like a dining chair where it's just got thin wooden arms. But it all depends what I can find second hand, what I can afford. And I also need to be able to secure it when I'm driving because it's not going to be fixed. I need to be able to move it. But I just think that would be really cool. I even want to get some sort of deer antler or fish plaque thing on the wall like you would see in like a hunting cabin or a fishing cabin. That's the sort of vibe I want to go for, like a proper lad's den sort of thing. But I also want to obviously be able to take the missus out in it. I don't have a sawhorse, but I have loads of wood lying around, and I've seen YouTube videos on a very simple way to make one, or a pair. Basically, you effectively, for the top, you make like an eye shape. I can't really hold it, but you get the idea. An eye shape, and that'll be the top. And then you just get 4 legs that go down at angles either side. And it's like really simple and actually surprisingly stable. Only thing is, people I think usually use like 2x4s, and I don't have any. But I have this stuff. And I figure, as long as I double some of the parts up, depending on how much wood I've got, that's suitable, I figure it'll be better than nothing. So I'm gonna have a go. So I think the most important one to double up will be like the middle of the eye, the one that will be like that. Then I've got a thicker piece to screw the top and bottom bits into. So I'm just going to screw them together. This is not perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just got to support things that I make. So. And then that should be like the top of the sawhorse. Here's the first top, fairly sturdy, and you can see it's almost like a metal I-beam, you know what they use in construction and stuff. So, and then basically the shape of this actually allows the legs to go on at the angle that you want, because you basically you slot this in underneath, and then because this is sticking out, it pokes it out, and so they all stick out diagonally out at an angle, which makes it obviously nice and stable, supposedly. Oh look. Not bad. Obviously I could probably level it out a bit, but hole's 18 stone. So there you have it, 2 sawhorses, and one of the best parts, look at this, they stack, so when you put them away they don't take as much space up. Right, today we start the floor. Went to my local timber merchant and got a load of batten. I'm getting the plywood and insulation delivered tomorrow. So yeah, obviously all the paint is dry now, and probably gonna, when I've got the Sikaflex out, go around and seal all these holes left over from those screws that I took out at the beginning. Basically, obviously I want to measure from that side to here, but I need to leave 50mm because obviously I want to have a batten along the edge here, and they're 50mm wide. By the looks of it, I'll use one of them as a dummy just to show that, yeah, I've left enough for this. See, so that I've got enough to put a bit of batten on the end to take the weight of people walking in and out. Obviously it's slightly shorter, but that's what we wanted. Nice. Right, so I'm gonna get just plugged up all of the little holes that are in this area, just so that, well, get it done before I put this batten down. Going to stick this first one down. I've marked it so that it's straight, because obviously I'm going to be using this to measure that 4 foot, that one that's 4 foot away over there off of this. So down there, straight. See, so I want it so that the plywood comes to the edge of this batten on the end. This is all going to be storage or something. I'll sort that out after I've done the main floor, whatever. And then obviously the other edge comes to the middle of this batten so that I can also put the next piece of plywood on this batten. Just need to get it straight. I'm not sure if you can see the faint line that I've drawn with the pencil. Basically just have to lightly put this on here and line it up. These two haven't got to be perfect. So that's the first 4 in. Now it's just rinse and repeat. So obviously measure 4 foot from the centre of this one to the centre of the next one, and then just put 2 in between, which I'll obviously have to measure a bit differently because of the wheel arch, but all good. And then I'll come in and do these edge ones and the middle ones. So what I did when I took these out, the ratchet strap holder things, I just put a bit of Sikaflex in the hole and then put the bolt in there on its own, because obviously I don't need these. but I do need the hole filled, so that's the easiest way, isn't it? Already getting my use out of these sawhorses I made yesterday. So I'm on to the last one. It's a bit of an awkward one, and I can't really remember how I was supposed to do it, but I've just cut each end at an angle so it's slotted in like that, you see, and it's about the right length, because it can't really, if it goes any further towards this piece of plastic, it's coming off the edge of these high bits, so I feel like it's actually going to be more secure if it's on here. And all this bit here is going to be, it's a storage area under the bed anyway, so it doesn't really need to be perfect. You've probably noticed I didn't take these out like I did over there, and it's purely because I couldn't. The only star-shaped bit I have goes on the drill, and the drill is only a combi drill. It's not powerful enough to get these out. I need an impact driver, which I don't have, and I can't even do it by hand because I don't have the things to do it, and they're out of the way. So that was 139 millimeters. I know I keep going from inches to millimeters, but I'll be honest, it's just whatever lines up nicer on here. Here's the test. Buzz it up there. Yeah, boy. Literally bang on. And then obviously I've just got to do a little piece to go across here, and then just some random lots across that way with my offcuts. So I've drilled and screwed this end batten into all four of these ones that it's on the end of, just for a bit of added support. So something like that, and then I'll obviously cut the insulation into squares to slot into these, and then foil tape over the top of them. So there we have it. Let me go widescreen. You might be able to see it a bit better. It's all down, and this stuff sets pretty quick. The first battens I put down are rock solid with a little bit of give, but then they're supposed to be it's supposed to be flexible. And you can see, not only have I screwed into here, but I've also doubled up, because this is going to be getting a lot of my big feet stamping on it in and out. I thought a bit of reinforcement here won't be a bad thing. Right, now it's time to insulate. Basically, I've got 25mm Certex style insulation. I forgot what the proper word is, but you know what it is. Which happens to be the exact same thickness as the batten I've put down. So I'm basically cutting out the squares to fit in, trying to make it as snug a fit as possible. But this is my first time doing it, so obviously I'm not actually very good at it, but I'm trying and I'm getting better. Hence why I've already done a row before I started recording, so I'll make less of a fool of myself. So far, you see, look. So there is some small gaps, but it's fine. And then once I've filled it all in, I'll get the foil insulation tape and just go over all the joints. And then I put the plywood down, which I've got down there. The first one going in will be pretty simple. It will literally just be a square. But it's going to get more complicated when I go down there and try and match up around the wheel arches. So obviously I've just got to measure 35 centimeters by 24 centimeters. And I saw a good tip is that you use the metal part of the tape measure to score along here. So obviously I'll get my thumb on the right length on here, and then I put that up against here and I just run it down, trying to not let it move. And now I've just got to cut down my line, which I'm already messing up. Now I'm just sawing down. I'm sure loads of people are going to hate that sound. So that, then it folds over, and I've just got to run down the back with the knife, and now hopefully it somewhat fits in the hole. We want it to be a bit snug. I'd rather it was a little too big, and then I've just got to squeeze it in. There we go. And as always, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people telling me that I'm doing it completely wrong. Plenty of experts in the comments, as always, but I am an amateur. I'm learning as I go along. So now this bit is a bit too big. Of course it is. Just cutting a bit off. So I've just been using this little bit to try and fill in these awkward spaces. And of course it's slightly too big. I don't normally have that problem. Wait. Oh, there we go, look, perfect. Almost perfect, anyway. But you thought that one was awkward. Look at that bloody thing. That's going to be fun. I'll probably just do 2 pieces, I'll be honest. I've noticed when you're not using a massive sheet, the easiest thing to do is to just put it over the hole and then obviously mark where you've got to cut by looking. So, do I get away with it? Oh, go on. Yeah, I'm really trying to not just randomly start cutting loads of squares out of the big pieces, and then I end up having loads of weird shaped small bits that I can't use. So I'm really trying to use up every bit as I cut it off. Also, appreciate something. I broke my tripod. So I got this piece of wood, drilled this big hole in it and rammed it in there and screwed it in place. And because it's heavier at the bottom, it's actually better than it was before, to be honest. There we go. Don't look too bad. And I've filled in all these awkward bits. So So I've left the middle bit for now. I've started doing the back and work that way. Hopefully the foil tape will arrive. The thing is, I'm getting them too big more than I'm getting them too small. I suppose is the least bad option. Obviously you're not going to believe this because I didn't get it on camera, but I swear, obviously apart from measuring the length and the width of the square to start with, I cut this bit completely by eye just now, and it took a bit of adjusting, but without any fancy tricks I've managed to get it to fit like that. Like, that ain't bad at all, is it? So I've finished it. Now I'm just going to use this aluminium tape. So yeah, another thing I've never done before, so don't judge. And because of advice given to me by my friend Demi, I know you're watching, mate, I'm going to get a microphone because I think it's quite hard to hear me sometimes on these videos if I'm over there facing away from the camera. So that's coming tomorrow. For now, I'll just try and speak up and make sure I talk towards the phone / camera. Right. I don't need to measure that way because that is exactly 4 foot. And that is also the width of the plywood. I just need to measure that way, which I did earlier, and it's 61 inches, I'm pretty sure. Wasn't a very graceful ending. Like a glove. Like a glove! And it's halfway across the batten. I've got some 30mm screws because obviously the ply is, well, it says 12 but it's 10mm. The batten is 25mm, so that's 35mm. And obviously I want to go into it deep enough that it's strong, but I don't want to go into the metal of the van. So 30mm should go in, but have half a centimetre before it goes into the van. What I've done is I've just marked on here where the battens are underneath here, so I know where to screw into. Otherwise, obviously, look, and I don't want to screw into the Celotex. I mean, I could, but it wouldn't do anything. I want to get them deep enough so that when I put the flooring down, they're not in the way. So I've just noticed while screwing that that corner somehow has come unstuck. It's all like literally rock solid, but somehow, maybe it was dirty when I glued it down, I don't know. So I've just had to stick some more underneath, and then I'm weighing it down with these weights, and I'm just going to have to leave that corner for a bit. So I'm just putting on the last of this foil, and I'm using the offcut of plywood to basically shimmy across, because it's going to obviously distribute my weight evenly across the battens instead of me having to try and balance on them and everything, you know. Now I have the challenge of marking out and cutting the shape of the footwell onto the plywood. So I'm going to try and make a template. I've got this right angle piece that fits on this flat side and then to here. And I've seen someone use masking tape basically to tape around this and create the curve. The problem is it bloody sticks. I'll do this, look. Now at least that bit won't stick. And there I have a very fairly accurate template of this curve, and I'll just measure where to place this on the plywood and mark it up. Right, so I've measured basically where this needs to go on here for it to match up, if I get it right. And that should be the angle. And then I've just got to follow this line all the way to the end because the wheel arch is longer than this piece. There we go. See if that works. Oh look, there's a bee. No, it's just chilling. Maybe he thinks this is a big bee.
Oh my god.
Not too bad. Although the proof will be when I try and fit it. So I've got it in. It looks like these cuts were all right, but I need to just take a bit out because of that, and then it should fit snug. So I think that's it. It's a little bit short there, and there's a bit more of a gap around some parts of the wheel arches than I would have liked, and there, but I still need to insulate and board the walls and the wheel arches, so it will hide all that. You won't see it. Last piece, come on. You know, these last pieces I had to do an extra angle on this to fit there. That one worked out alright. Let's see how this goes in. Is it like a jigsaw piece? Oh! Like a glove. Like a glove! That ain't bad at all. There's a slight gap here where obviously I've not cut it perfectly straight, but this is going to be the shed. You won't see it. What's more important is that this meets up and all this does. Yeah, so look, it's nearly perfect. Hey, considering I'm not a professional, chuffed with that. Now to screw in the last piece, and then that's the floor done. first stage of the conversion done, I guess. Well, maybe second stage. I suppose the painting and rust was the first stage. Second stage, the floor, insulated, plywooded, and it made a few mistakes, but for a first attempt, not bad at all. Here, look, I got that pretty bang on. I'm happy with that. Even that corner. And to be fair, I mean, look, that didn't match up, did it? Look, I didn't even really need to cut that, but it is what it is. And these, I mean, the gap there is bigger than the gap on this side, but when you zoom out, they're not bad. And most of the boards are pretty flush. I tried my best to use the edges that obviously the sawmill had cut, the edges of the boards that I bought, as the ones that were going to meet up against the others. And I almost completely did that, because that's all flush. But then when it got to this one, I planned to do it and I could have done it, but I was an idiot and I cut the wrong bloody side. I think that was the side that was the nice perfect straight side, but should have been there. But we live and we learn, eh? And as is now becoming my favourite saying, you won't see it when I'm finished, it don't matter. Well, what's next? Next, the walls. Walls and ceiling, basically. Insulating them and then boarding them up. I have a bit of an idea to maybe extend this a little bit somehow. Only like a couple of inches. The only thing is it's got to go all the way down. Obviously, if it just overhangs, I am going to get my foot in there and trip on it and I'll stack it, you know. And I've just had a thought to myself, if I add this here, which I've done, especially once I've put ply on the outside, I have gained another 2 inches of floor space. And it's also just a nice big thicker sturdy piece of wood to have on the edge to get stamped on. Put some pretty hefty screws in here and then whacked these in, and they were literally barely small enough to fit in this gap. I had to proper whack them in, I've screwed them in, and that is literally rock solid. Like, I'd jump on that. Right. But look, got just over another 2 inches of floor space. So that's it, that's the end of today. It's too dark now and I've been working since the morning, but it's not looking too shabby, is it?